סבל, עסק, תהנו.
Hi, everybody. So how many of you out there today would think that I spent many years being a crack addict? I'm sure not many of you looking at me today, but I did. For many years of my life, I spent so many days in that dark world of drugs and alcohol. And it wasn't pretty, I can tell you that for sure. And March 6, 1986 was a night that changed my life forever. I was at home alone with my two daughters, who were then 8 and 11, desperate to get out of pain. And for me, getting out of pain, the only thing that I knew to immediately get out of pain was alcohol. You see, for me, alcohol was magic because I could drink it and immediately it was relief. So I searched my house. No, actually, I ravaged the house looking for some alcohol. Now, mind you, I thought I was a classy drunk because I only drank white wine and champagne. So if you could picture me walking down the streets of Manhattan, sky-high high heels, all dressed up, but falling down in the street. So on this night, while ravaging my house, the only thing that was left was some dirty old bottle of scotch. For 1 second, I contemplated not drinking it, but I did, right? Because I'm an alcoholic. So as that hot, disgusting scotch went down my throat, it was over. The pain was over. I felt relief, but it didn't end there. I continued to search the house, to search for my other love, which was cocaine, because that's all I had left in this world. The loves of my life were drugs and alcohol. I found some small traces of cocaine, and in an instant, I was in a blackout. And for any of you who don't know what a blackout is, it's when you appear to be fully functioning, but you lose massive amounts of time and have zero recollection of anything that's been going on in your life. For me, I actually had friends that would call me in the morning and tell me what I said to them the night before and had no idea that I even called. The one thing that I did right that night in the blackout was reach out to my only friend that I had left, because everybody else had abandoned me, and asked her to come help me and told her I was committing suicide. Well, she must have been pretty scared because with what it seemed to be seconds, she showed up at my door with my mother. Now, you don't know Charlotte. Charlotte was no lightweight. And from the look on their faces, and with my mother's giant suitcase full of guilt, I knew I was in trouble. And they knew I was in trouble. Now, the two of them had different agendas. Daryl, my girlfriend, her agenda, she took me and showed me the mirror. And when I looked at that image, looking back at me, it must have been a woman to me that appeared to be 45. At the time, I was 31. The shame and guilt that I felt was enough. My mother, her agenda was my two children, her grandchildren. And what she said to me was, if you don't do something about this today, I am taking them away from you. Well, knowing Charlotte, she meant business. So the very next day, I took drastic measures. I went to AA, and I moved in with my mother, with my two daughters. Now, what 31-year-old single woman wants to go move in with their mother? So I went to that AA meeting with my girlfriend, Daryl. They handed me some literature, found some wonderful Jewish woman with a story like me to help me. I read the literature. I thought, I got this. I can do this on my own. Well, not so fast. Things weren't so easy. I went out that night with an old boyfriend, and the minute he got up to go to the men's room, like my hand had a brain of its own, I drank his drink. I was in shock. I thought, I can do anything I want to do. But that, I could not do. I could not drink that drink. Like so many other nights when I went out and I said, I'm not going to drink tonight, I drank that drink. And once again, I drove home in a blackout. I could have killed anybody on the road. I got home, and again I called Daryl. And guess what? Within a second, she said to me, you were drinking. And I thought to myself, I'm going to lie to her. But I didn't. I told her I had. And she said something to me that I never heard before in my life. She said, it's okay. No one in my life had ever told me that something that I did wrong was okay. And the next day I went with her back to that AA meeting and I shared what had happened. And so March 8th, 1986 is my sober date. I have not had a drink or an illegal drug since that day. So what happened in my life that led me to that point? What happened that would make somebody turn their life over to alcohol and drugs? I grew up, upper middle class Jewish family, mother, father, brother, sister. Everything seemed to be perfect from the outside. Me, I was a middle child. We could do an entire conversation on middle child syndrome, right? The middle child, I was the lost child. My brother, brilliant academically. I would go to school, teachers would actually say to me, why are you so stupid and your brother's so smart? I felt like an idiot. I wanted to cry. My sister, she could do no wrong because she was the baby. And when I cried to my dad, his answer to me was, you got the pretty. So my message in life was, you may not be smart, but you certainly are pretty. So I learned to use that to my advantage. The one advantage that I did have was I joined every business club in school, and I excelled at it. So I put that in the back of my mind, and I thought, one day, business is going to be my ace in the hole. And so the message that I got as a young girl is, one day you're going to have to go out and marry somebody to take care of you because you may not be smart, but you're pretty. We have a lot of talk in our society today about sex abuse, harassment, and rape. There's a lot of shame about that. Women keep silent for so long. Why is that? Fear, shame. It's coming from Hollywood moguls, business executives. It's even coming from that boy next door. When I was 14 years old, I was gang raped by a bunch of boys in my high school. And to make matters even worse, I was betrayed by a very close friend who let them all in my house. The boys, well, their version of the story was that I wanted it. I kept that inside my entire life. I went from being cheerleader, social butterfly, to keeping it inside and turning it on myself. There were days that I couldn't go on any longer. But somehow I got through, and I was about to graduate high school, and my parents found some guy that they thought would be a good husband for me. So I married him. So now I was 19, getting married, and by the time I was 20, I had my first daughter. By the time I was 23, I had my second daughter. And at 21, the magic happened. I found alcohol. Alcohol was the perfect fix to take away emotional pain. It's legal. Everybody's doing it. You walk around in cafes. It's there. It's flowing. But for me, it didn't stop there. Alcohol was just the start. I continued on with drugs. I was smoking cocaine. I was snorting cocaine. I even got to a point where I was selling cocaine. I was off to the races. I got involved with a very, very dark crowd and a very, very dark life. But, it was New York City. It was the 1980s. It was all dressed up with fast and beautiful clubs like Studio 54. And by the time I was 25, my first marriage ended. And then tragedy hit me. At 29 years old, my father died. He died in front of me of a massive heart attack, and I was devastated. I was starting to really, really hit bottom and lose a sense of reality. But, as unbelievable as it may sound, my career was flourishing because, like I said, back in high school, the business clubs were my ace in the hole. And I was dating somebody at the time that my parents really didn't approve of, especially my dad. He knew this guy, and he knew that he was bad news. So I kept going on, and the drugs and the alcohol and my drug addiction kept getting worse and worse and worse. And at one point, I even married this bad boyfriend. So back to 1986, that night in March of 1986, I did get clean and sober, and that is my sober date, March 8th, 1986. When I told my friends that I was going to marry this guy, what they said to me was, we're going to sit shiva for you. We're not coming to the wedding because this is never going to work out. But me, I always had this idea that I could fix people instead of doing what was best for me. Well, as they predicted, the marriage didn't work, but my career continued to flourish, and I stayed sober. Well, the years went on, and when I was 38 years old again, my mother was taken from me very tragically, very quickly, and I was really, really destitute. As a result of my recovery, my relationship with her flourished in a way that I could have never predicted. And my relationship with my daughters, as a result of my recovery, started to heal, and the trauma that they experienced from my addiction was also starting to heal. And then not long after that, I met a man and married him, and I really thought Sam would be my last husband. So now we're at 3, I think, if anybody's counting. Within a year of that marriage, I developed breast cancer. I felt alone and isolated. And through my treatment, I met a wonderful doctor who introduced me to meditation. The meditation combined with my newfound recovery brought me to a much more spiritual place. And as a result, for many, many reasons, I decided not to stay in my marriage. And I knew that if I had beat addiction, cancer, and lived through the death of both of my parents, I could do anything. So here I am, 2010, going through the divorce, and I knew I needed to start a new career. But this time my career had to be something that I was really passionate about. I am so passionate about recovery and so passionate about helping people as I had been helped. I started to hear about something called recovery coaching. It was not yet mainstream in New York, but it was becoming pretty huge in Los Angeles. So I started to do research. I found out about a woman in LA who had a pretty big business, and I started to hound her. I said, would you teach me your method? She said, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't have a method yet. I said, well, will you make one for me? So she said, call me next week. She never got back to me. I called her and called her and called her. She finally said to me, okay, if you come out to LA, stay with me for a week or two, train with me, let me Skype with you for every other day for a year. She couldn't even finish her sentence, and I said yes. I knew this is what I wanted to do, and I was willing to do anything. And at the same time, I went for a certification as a life coach, an interventionist, and learned many different modalities that I could to help clients, because I never went to college. I got married at 19. I just finished high school, and I guess my career was getting married. But I knew that this is what I wanted to do, and I did it. And so by the time I finished all of those certifications, I came back to New York, and I was a damn good marketer because I started marketing myself to every psychiatrist and addiction treatment center across the United States. So in 2010, I started out, it was just me. Today, I have over 30 people working with me. The gift is helping people with substance use and mental health issues. The look on people's faces, I have to say that I call it the magic. The magic when you see somebody or hear somebody at the moment that aha moment, when you know that they get it. They get it that they do have a problem. Addiction is not easy to overcome. It's probably one of the most difficult things to overcome. Shira asked me the other night, what are the statistics of somebody getting better? They're not good. They're really not good. The odds are against everybody. And there's mental health issues, mixed into the whole addiction piece. But we try. We never give up. I always say, where there's help, there's hope. And I love what I do every day. Every day is different. It's a different day every day, And my life today is beautiful. I have a boyfriend here with me today who flew across the country to support me. Matthew's here with me. My two beautiful daughters, Stacy and Courtney, who are 39 and 43. We have a great relationship. And for anybody in the audience who's a grandparent, I have to say, the icing on the cake is the grandchildren, right? I mean, if I could have skipped children to grandchildren, I would have done that. Because Liv and Justin, they only know this Gaga as sober, reliable, and responsible. Because I have to say, the word responsible and reliable was not on my resume 31 years ago before I got sober. And if anybody would ask me today, what is your greatest asset? My greatest asset today is being a responsible adult. And I know to some people, that's just a given. It's a given that we're responsible adults, certainly in our 60s. But for somebody who struggles with substances, it's not a given, because it's something that's really, really hard to do. It's like every single day for somebody who has a substance use disorder, waking up and making that decision to be sober is a decision. And sometimes it's not so easy. And I remember people, would say, well, why don't you just stop? And I wish that it was that easy, but it's not. So I see the timer says that I have 3 minutes left. So I just want to say in closing that I am so honored to be here today, to be speaking among the other amazing women that are speaking here today, even though I don't understand a word of what they said. Not one word, but I do feel it. Like I can totally feel it in my body. And I want to thank everybody from Saluna. I met Shira the other night, and she's awesome. And I have to say, Carmeet has worked so hard to put together all of the events for Matthew and I to enjoy Israel. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Wow.